So in this video, I'm going to show you step by step how you can make this habit tracker template. So welcome back to a new video. So in this video, I'm actually quite excited because I'm going to show you step by step how you can make my smart habit tracker template in Google Sheets. So just a little prerequisite, this video will be a little bit more advanced as we're going to be using conditional formatting. We're going to be adding in charts and things like that. But if you're a complete beginner, no worries. I'm still going to try to break this down as simple as possible so that you guys can all follow along. So I'm going to show you exactly how to make this exact sheet along with all the cells, how they merge, how they update properly. And before we get into making this sheet, let's just go over what it actually does. So in this tracker, the very first step would be to enter your year and month below. So let's say if it was a different year, everything would update properly. So right now it's 2025 and we can select which month we want to track. So when you update the month and the year, the dates and the Saturday, Sunday, Monday, all of that will automatically update depending on the year and month. So over here I have today's date so you can see what date I'm making this video on. And then as you can see, this cell updates automatically. But let's get into step 2 first. So now step 2 would be enter your daily habits for the month. So whenever you enter a new habit, like go to the gym, the table will automatically update with your checkboxes, and that's when you can start checking off your habits. And when you check off your habits, it will update the charts automatically. So in this month, there are 310 tasks I need to complete. And then once you complete everything, your charts will also turn green as well. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to unselect all that. And then let's say if you don't have 10 habits, you can simply just do 3 habits, for example. And if you clear them, the table will also automatically update as well. And then likewise, when you start checking off your habits, the charts will automatically update depending on how many rows and how many habits you have. So in this case, as you can see from these charts over here, let me just quickly go through them. I have the total habits completed. So I've completed 9, as you can see over here. I have 84 left uncompleted, which is the rest over here. Once you complete all that, it'll turn to 0. I have the habits completed per day. So this shows percentage wise how many habits I've completed. So as you can see, if I click a new habit here, since I only have 3 habits, this one is 33%, as you can see. And then also I have another chart showing the habits completed in the month. So this is a running total. And the reason why it's only going up to over here is because today is the 16th. So another cool function of this template is that it automatically shows you what date it is today. So it's Sunday, March 16th. And it also highlights the rows for you. So it's very easy to see what you need to do today. And let's say if you complete it, as you can see, the running total will show you how many tasks are completed throughout the month. And then we have our monthly progress here, pretty self-explanatory. Once you complete everything, it will also turn green as well. And then we have our task completed over here, which updates automatically along with the progress bars and the progress percentage. So that was a quick overview of what the sheet actually does. And just before we begin, you can actually get this template in the description below if you want. So if you don't want to make it and just want to download it right away, you can just go to the link in the description. And if you want to see me do anything else, make other templates, or if you need help with anything, just leave them in the comments below and I'll try to help you as much as I can. And with that, let's get back into the video. So now let's get into actually making it from scratch. So first things first, I'm going to create a new sheet. Over here, I'm going to rename this to tutorial, since this is a tutorial. Now, as you can see here, I have different steps, so we'll try to follow them as much as possible so that you can get a better picture and understanding of how I make this template. So because I said exactly, I'm going to do exactly what the spreadsheet looks like. So the first thing I need to do is add a name. So it's called the Smart Habit Tracker. And also I'm going to put my name here as well by Champion Challenger, aka Sheet Geek. And then how you do that extra line is by pressing alternate enter on your keyboard. Then now we go ahead and press enter. Then now I have this spread across 2 different cells. So I'm going to merge that together and I'm going to make this bigger. Now the first step 1 is to enter the year and month below. And so we want the year here. We want the month here. And then over here, this will be empty because let's say this one can be 2025. And then this one will be a drop down list of each month. So what we're going to actually do is we're going to insert and go to drop down over here. Click on drop down, and then now we can input our options. So we want to input an option for each month. So go ahead and type that out. So January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Then I like it to be a arrow style, just like this. So now we have January, February, March, April, all the way to December. And then now we can select March. So I'm going to click done, cancel this. Now I'm going to make this a little bit bigger over here. So I need this merged as well. So let's just do some formatting so actually it looks a little bit nicer. So I want the entire sheet to be the Roboto font. I'm going to bold the year and the month. I'm going to center align this using the center align, or I can press Ctrl-Shift-E. Next, I want the Smart Habit Tracker here to be a bigger font. So let's go to 36. Okay, it's a bit too big. 24. I'm going to bold it as well. And actually, I just realized I use Smart uppercase, so I'm going to change that to uppercase. Smart Habit Tracker. Looks a lot better. Make this bigger. Going to center align it with Ctrl-Shift-E again. This one as well. I'm going to bold it, and I'm going to give this a little green color. And for the instructions, I'm going to give that a blue color. And then another thing I did was I actually made this a white font. Whoops, not that one. So make sure that you have your thing selected and then click the white font and bold that using Control-B. Then I also added a little star. So if you can come to our empty template, I had a little star. So to get the star, what you can simply do is go to Google and copy the star emoji. Then now you can paste it in using Control-V. And that's how you get the star emoji. Make this a little bit bigger and make the font bigger. And I'm going to vertically align it in the middle. So now if we go to our sheet with the template, it's starting to look a little bit better. So I noticed one thing here is I use the first 3 rows for this cell over here. So I'm going to add 2 more rows above and simply highlight them all and merge them together. And the reason why I do this will be clear later. It's simply because later on I need to have a cell here for today's date. So I need that extra cell in the middle. But for now, we can go ahead and make this green as well. I believe I used that green. I'm going to change this to the other green as well. And then you can now highlight everything. And I'm going to add all borders over here. And then I also centered align this. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So now for step 2. Step 2, I have it in number 19. So we're going to come to number 19. And step 2 is to enter your daily habits for the month. You actually don't have to be doing this step 1, step 2, but I want to show you exactly how my template's made. So that's why I'm doing everything. And for this one, we need the star as well. And I want to at the beginning, and I want to bold it, press enter. So I want the same color and formatting that I have in here. So simply highlight the cell, go to paint format, and then now this format of the cell will be copied over. Now you can just click on this and the formatting will automatically be copied over. So that's just a little hack for you. And I have this going all the way to C. So highlight these 3 cells and then merge them all together. So we want our daily habits for the month to be under here. So the cells that we need is the serial number. I'm going to capitalize that as well. And then we need the actual habits. And then we need 10 habits. So for this part, actually, you can put however many you want. But just take note, if you have a bunch of habits and you have a bunch of conditional formatting, it's going to lag your sheet later on. So I'm just going to put 10 like I did in the template, drag it down, get rid of the extras. And I'm going to center align these ones. And for this, I need the cells to merge horizontally. So what you can do is just select all your cells over here, press the down arrow over here and click on merge horizontally, just like that. And then now we can bold the headers, and I'm going to bold the numbers as well and center line just the header. I actually want the habits to be left aligned, so I'm going to leave it just like that. Now we can apply some formatting. So likewise, we can just click on this and click the paint format and then select 2 cells this time, and the format will be applied. However, do take note, if something's merged, it will unmerge it for you. So maybe you don't exactly want to do that every single time. And I'm just going to put a placeholder over here called enter habit, just so we know like what's goes on in this cell. enter habit, and I'm going to press Control D to copy down that. So if we take a look at our template, I only put borders around the cells. I didn't really put it in every single line. And this, you see this green, white, green, white. I'm going to show you how to do that later as well. Don't worry about it. So simply come up here, select these cells and apply the outer borders. Same for this one, highlight the cells and apply the outer borders. And while we're here, just note that you see all these lines here. Don't worry about them now, because later we can just go to view and go to show and we can turn off grid lines. But for now, it's quite useful to us to know like where the cells actually are. So I'm just going to leave that on for now. Okay, the next thing we need is 31 checkboxes in a row. So we can simply count one by one, but that's way too slow. The whole point of using spreadsheets is to save your time, right? So we want the numbers to be over here. But if we look at our template that we're going to make, we have the number, we have the date, name, and we also have the week. So we're actually needing to merge 3 cells into one. So actually what we need to do for this is we need to copy this down by 2 and then merge vertically just like this. And if there's always an issue, then just do it one by one. Okay, we need to do it like this, and we can make the font bigger. We're not going to care about the formatting too much right now, because we can do that when everything is done. It's actually better to do it at the end, but I just want to help you guys have a general picture of what we're actually doing. But the best thing to do is just put all your information in, the key information, then that's when you start making it look nice and look better. So back to putting in the 31 checkboxes, we want the numbers to be over here. This way, when we insert our checkboxes, we can just copy it to wherever 31 is. So to simply do that, instead of typing 1 all the way to 33, we can type in sequence 31. However, if we do it like this, it will give me 31 down the column. So we want it to be in the columns area. So instead, we only want 1 row of 31 columns. Press enter. And then as you see, when we scroll over, we can hit 31. So what we need to do is actually highlight all these cells all the way to the last one, which is 31, any day now. And then what we can do is just double click on the section divider over here, and it'll automatically resize it for you. Now I want it to be uniform, so I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger, and that works for now. Now we're going to insert our checkboxes over here, so that's now really easy to do. Highlight the cells and go to insert and then click on checkbox. Now we got all our checkboxes. Okay, now that we got this part in, actually I did forget to do step 3, so let's go ahead and do that right now. So step 3 will be over here. So I'm going to merge all these cells together. And step 3 is simply, I'm going to add in the star and then type in step 3, check off completed habits by clicking the check box. And then I'm going to give it the same formatting by center aligning it, vertically aligning it, bolding it, and applying blue. Now we're going to apply merging to these cells to do for week 1. And then wonder if we can do this. We can. You learn something new every day. Week 2, Control C, Control V. Week 3, Control C, Control V. Week 4, and lastly these last 3 days, week 5. And then in these individual cells will be Saturday, Sunday, Monday formulas. So I don't want to get into formulas just yet. So I'm going to just put Monday first. And I'm going to format this nicely. So I'm going to put an outer border around the whole thing. There's an outer border for the step 3. There are borders for all these steps. And then I have borders going along each week, just like this. So go ahead and copy what I'm doing, applying outer borders to each week segment, just like this, outer border, and lastly, outer border over here. And then notice how Monday's actually slipping out of this cell over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and select all cells and make it a little bit bigger. And then to make it look square, I'm going to select all these cells and make them bigger as well. So now each cell looks a little bit more square. And the last thing I'm going to do is highlight all this and center line everything along with bolding, Control B. Okay, so now if we look at our empty template, we have completed step 1, step 2, step 3. Okay, before we move on to the last step, which has our progress bars and everything, we're going to settle this Monday and the numbers as well. So firstly, we're going to start with the numbers. So what I want this to do is basically Right now in March, there are 31 days. If we go to February, there's 28 days. So I want this to only show up till 28, just like this. Okay, right now we have a sequence formula going on, so we can actually get rid of this. But I only want it to go up to 28, which is over here. So how we do this is we're going to use formulas. So we basically want a formula saying sequence, one row, and then how many columns we want. So in the columns part, if there's 31 days, we want it to be 31. If it's 28 days in the month, we want 28. Or if there's 30 days, we want 30. So how do we get that number? So we need to get the number of days in the month. So what we're going to do is, right now it's March and there are 31 days. So I'm going to try to get the last day of the month, which is March 31st, 2025. Why? Because when I get the last day of the month, I can do the function day, take a date, and it returns me the number of days in the month. So then after that, I can take the sequence function to do from 1 to 31. How do we get the last day of the month? What we can do is simply use the formula date. Then for the year, we're going to input the selected year over here. And we're going to make this a absolute reference. So we're going to press F4, or you can just put the dollar signs manually. And then we're going to get the month. So the month is actually 3, but we can't just take this cell over here because we need a numerical value. But I'm just going to carry on to show you that the formula here actually works. And then the day, we're going to put 0. So notice what happens. So the date is just a different format right now. We're going to change it into this format so you can read it. Notice what happens. We input the year, the month, and 0. And it returns us the last date of the previous month. So that's really good, because what we need to do now is we just need to do a +1 to the month, and then now we will get the last day. We'll get the last day of the current month. So the final thing that we need to do is we need to make this dynamic, which means it listens to this cell over here, which is March. So to do that, we're going to use the function date value. And date value is simply saying if you give me a string like 1st March, and this is actually a date format, so we just need to convert it to a date format. It'll give you 1st March. And then from here, this is when we can get the month of that date. And then now this is actually not a date anymore. It should be just a number. So hopefully this is not too confusing for you guys. That's what it takes to make these templates. It's not always going to be easy, and I'll try to break it down as much as possible, but it is going to require some effort to understand. I apologize for that. And now we get the 3. So this is now, as you can see, we have date value 1. So 1 is is a placeholder, so we can always use 1. However, March is where we need to change it. So we're going to separate these 1 and March, and we're going to combine it with, instead of March, we're going to do this cell. So select the cell and put your dollar signs to make it an absolute reference. And then now we can press enter, and it will still return us 3. And now this is where we can start combining everything to make our complete formula. So highlight and press Control C. So this returns us 3. So we just need to replace the 3 here, not the 3 plus 1. We still need the +1. So replace the 3 and press Control V. Get rid of the equal sign over here. And now we press enter. Now this function still works. It returns us the last day. So now we just need to get the day, the amount of days. So select your entire formula without the equals, press Control C. And then now we can input or replace the B16 with the actual last date of the month and press enter. And then it says 31. So now notice when I update the month, February, it changes to 28. We don't need this one actually anymore. So notice how when it's February, this is the 2nd month, this is the last date of the month, and this is how many days are in the month. If we go to January, there are 31. So 1st month, 31st January, 31. If we go to this November, that's also 30. And if we go to last year, 2024, you can see we had 29 days in February because it was a leap year, 29. So now we know that this formula works. So I'm going to go back to 2025 and put it back to March. Then now, since I have the number, I just need to copy this formula. It's a very long formula, I know. Come over here. Then remember I needed the sequence formula. How many rows? 1. Columns. This is where it's the amount of days in the month. So go ahead and press Control V and close it. Press enter. Now it goes to 1 to 31. When I go to February, it goes to 1 to 28. When I go back to January, it goes 1 to 31. So that's how you get that to be dynamic. So now we can go back to March, and we don't need these anymore. They just help us to make the formula. That's how I make my formulas. You always got to break it down into steps. It can be quite confusing at times, but once you do this over and over again, you'll figure out how to do it. So don't be too worried if you can't do it. So now we got the numbers working properly. Now we need the actual day name. So let me show you something. When we have a date, when we have a date, we can get the date's name using the text function. So we can type in text number, which is this, and then our format, which is DDD. So DDD, you can also do lowercase as well. When you press enter, it basically gives us the date in 3 letters. So if we did 4 Ds, it would give us the full name. 2 Ds, give us the date number, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But let's just go back to our triple D. And then now we have our date name. So this is what we're going to input into each cell. Now, whenever we do formula, what do? We break it down. So we know that for this cell right here, we want 1st March 2025. For this cell right here, we want 2nd March 2025. Notice there's a pattern. 3rd March 2025. So basically what I'm trying to say is we need the text. Actually, we can just go back here. We need the text. This one will be our date. How do we make a date? We can use the date function. So the year, what's the year? 2025. Always make it an absolute reference for our case so that whenever we move the formula around, this cell does not get moved. So press F4. Month, it'll be March. But remember, we can't just put that in. We need to put the actual number. So remember, what we can do is we can press enter for now, leave the formula as it is, come back to the formula we've already done, and get the month right here. And remember, for this one, we don't need the +1. We actually just need March. So press Control C without the +1. Just to show you that this works, we're going to put it over here. So select this. I already have it on my clipboard actually. Paste our month in. So this is 3. And then our last day will be over here. So let's select 1. And for this case, we're just going to leave it as it is. Right now, we don't need to do absolute referencing because we're still going to move it either way. So now we've created our date. So all that's left to do is get the text from the date. So I'm going to cancel this actually. And I'm going to take this entire formula, paste it into here. I'm going to press paste, and right here we have the actual date. I'm just going to make it bigger so you can see. So now we added the actual date here. So remember, to extract that date name, we just need to put text around it. So use the text function, open parentheses, comma, what format do we want it in? We want it in DDD. And as you can see here, it shows Saturday, close, close, enter. So now we have Saturday. Then we want it to be uppercase as well. So that's very simple. Just use an upper function in the beginning and it'll automatically capitalize it for you. So now we have our formula. So now we can go ahead and copy this all the way down. And if you have your formatting a bit messed up, no worries. Just go ahead and get rid of it all and then put it back. So left, right border. Come over here and top border. Come back over here, remove all, left, right, top, and then do the rest. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the rest here. 2 more weeks, remove, left, right, top. Last one, left, right, and top. So we're going to make this back smaller again. And then now notice I can change the month and it'll automatically update. So January, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I'm just going to check with the calendar on my phone. So April starts with Tuesday, correct. And then once it starts with Tuesday, you know the rest will be correct. So I'm actually going to go and show you one more thing, which is these last 3 cells. Sometimes they might be there and sometimes they won't. So if these numbers aren't here, I don't want the Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday. I don't want these 3 cells to show up. So if we go back to our empty template, this cell formula, this one's the normal formula that we just did. The Saturday, Sunday, Monday have an additional if function around it. This if function is very simple. It's basically saying if the cell below it is empty, you are empty. If it's not empty, then you do the formula. So to do that, and we're going to copy this and delete it. So now we have it in our clipboard. So if the cell below, so we click the cell below, if that is empty, we're going to make our cell empty. However, if it's not, we're going to paste back our formula. Control V and press enter. And then same for this one. What we can actually do is just drag this formula. And this is actually going to mess our formatting up a little bit. So let's just redo that. So now when we go to February, it doesn't show. March shows everything. April shows everything. Just for laughs and giggles, we go to 2024, February, because that has 29 days. 29. Perfect. Let me just go back to 2025, March. And I don't know why this is like that again. That's weird. Vertically aligned. So now we've finally completed step 3. Now there's still conditional formatting to go through and everything. And now I'm noticing everything will drop down. So I think we need to highlight everything and vertically align it. So now that should be no issue. So what I was saying is we still need to apply conditional formatting to everything. So notice how this template actually took a long time to make. I'm not going to lie. It took me quite a few days to come up with it and then actually iteratively improve on it. That is sometimes what it takes to make a dashboard. I'm going to continue working on it. So I'm going to leave it like that for now. I'm going to delete here. And I'm just going to move on to step 4 before this gets too boring. We can do a conditional formatting later. And I'm going to make this a little bit smaller because my whole goal of a dashboard is always to have it just on one page so you can see everything at a glance. We'll do the sizing and everything later. So the last step is to lastly view your progress. So I combine this all the way from AI to AM. Go ahead and merge it, get your star. Actually, we're just going to copy this and paste it over here. So it copies the formatting. And then we're going to cancel this. Step 4, lastly, view your progress. So let's just go ahead and take a look. We have our task completed over here. This is with 2 cells, or 2 columns, should I say. And we have our progress bar and our progress percentage. So let's come back here to give it an outline while we're at it. We're going to do that. And these 2 columns of cells will be merged into one. The task completed. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this cell, paste it over here so that all the formatting applies. Task completed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on the second line just like that. And then over here, I want the total. So merge over here, total. And I forgot to do it again. Just copy this cell, paste it over here. You have all the formatting just like that. Then now we can go ahead and put an outline around this as well. So next, what we want to do is we want to merge horizontally the cells. Come up to your merge, press the down arrow key and merge horizontally. And we want this to say, for example, 0 out of 31 in this case. So likewise, when you're doing a formula, make sure you split it up. So we know that we want it to say equals the text 0, and then we want it to be combined with space slash space, and then combine it with 31. So the ampersand, these squiggly symbol basically combines them together. So press enter. So when I change this to 1, you can see that it updates over here just like that. So it's really important to split things if you're having trouble. So we want 31, the task completed, to be based on how many days there are in a month. So to do that, we could do the whole get the month formula from here and everything, but we don't need to do all that. We can do something very simple, which is actually, I'm going to show you up here. We can just do count all, and it counts how many cells in here are actually filled up. And we're going to make this an absolute reference as well. So whenever the month changes, February has 28 days, it counts 28 cells, as you can see. There are 28 cells that are filled up, so it doesn't count the empty cells. So we can copy this formula, and we're going to paste it over here, just like that. So now it's 28 when you go to March, 31. And then next, we want the first part to count how many are selected. So with checkboxes, it's very simple. As you can see here, if we go up to our formula, we can see that when it's checked, it's true. When we uncheck it, it's false. So to count how many are selected, we just need to count how many are true. So for that, I'm going to show you up here first as well. So we're going to count if, select your whole row, and if it's true. Just simply type in true. Make sure you're not putting it in between quotation marks. You just want it to be true. And then close it. Then notice when I'm starting to check it off, look over here, it's starting to go up. So that's exactly what we want. So I'm going to come over here. I'm not going to copy this just so I'll show you why in a bit. So we're going to remove this first part, and we're going to do count if this whole row and if it is true. So we're not going to use absolute referencing for this or anything because we're going to copy down the formula, and we want to make sure that the reference row is moving down as well. So count if it's true, close it. Now we have it automatically update. So as you can see here, automatically updates, and we can test it by selecting all of it. 31 out of 31. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this formula down just by clicking and dragging. I'm going to center align it. I'm going to bold it, and I'm going to make it size 17. So now I can select these two columns, make it smaller so that everything fits. I'll have to lower this font size. And then I'm going to put my outline over here. So go to outline, outer borders. And this, I have it as size 10, and this one I have it as size 9 in my template. That's not what I meant to do. Okay. And then while we're here, we're actually going to, let's do some formatting. So go to format, and we're going to add alternating colors. So this is where we add the green, white, and we didn't select our header. So we're going to unselect our header here, and then we're going to press done. So now, as you can see, our spreadsheet's all starting to come together. And let's add some color over here. Let's make this green. And for these cells here, it's a 1 shade lighter than the current green that we're using. Just like that. We can check with our empty template. It's like 1 shade lighter. So now we can delete this. And now we can put in our progress bar and progress percentage. So let's first start with the percentage. So the percentage is very simple. Simply come over to the last cell over here. So I'm just going to scroll over first. So we're just going to use the count if, and however many of them are true. And then we're going to divide this by number of days in the month. So count A, select this over here. And remember, this one has to be an absolute. So make sure you go ahead and put your dollar signs, close it. So first we're going to copy it all down, and then we're going to make it a percentage, and we don't want the decimal places. And make sure you put your border back at the below part. So for this one, I'm going to make it size 18. I'm going to bold it, and I'm going to left align it like that. Now, as you can see, it will automatically update. Next, we need to put in our progress bars. So for this one, we're going to merge the cells horizontally. So to put in a progress bar, simply, we're going to use the function sparkline. So sparkline, what does it take in? It takes in our data and then our options. So go ahead and select your data. So this is going to be this. And then we're going to put in our options. So this is a bit more confusing. So just copy what I'm going to type in. So we're going to use squiggly bracket. And actually, I'm going to show you what the options look like. So we're going to do chart type. We want it to be a bar. And then we're going to use a semicolon. So make sure this is a colon, then this is a semicolon. The max will be 1. And use another semicolon. And for the color, we want it to be green. Close it off with our squiggly bracket first, and then our other bracket. And one last thing, it's red because I forgot to put color 1, and then press enter. So we go look back at our formula. It's because I didn't spell chart type properly. So make sure there are 2 T's. Now press enter. Now we have our progress bar. So this is very, very cool. We can actually go ahead and copy it down to see what that looks like. So now they're all there. And then something cool that I had, if we go back to our empty template, is if it's not completed, it's purple. But if it's fully completed, then it's green. So that's a very simple thing to do. So right now we can just see that all our charts have progress bars over here. So we're going to come back to our formula. Let me scroll over again. Come back to our formula. And basically we want to, let me type it out for you actually. So basically we're saying if the thing is 100%, we want green. If not, we want purple. So with that in mind, I'm going to copy this out. And I'm going to use the function if. So if this equals 1, so not 100%, it's 1. So 1 is because the number 1 is 100%, because a percentage is basically a decimal. And if it's 100% or 1 in this case, we want, if we refer back, we want green. So we can paste back our formula over here. If not, comma, what do we do if it's false? We're going to paste the same sparkline formula because we still want it to be a bar chart or a progress bar. But we just need to change the color to purple. Let's come over to your color and put in purple. Press enter. There you have it. Now when we go ahead and do it, it'll turn green when it hits 100. So just make sure to copy that formula all the way down. So now everything's purple. Perfect, just like we wanted. And when we have everything selected, press spacebar, everything turns green. So this is working just how we want it. And now we're starting to get somewhere. Make sure you go ahead and put your bottom border back here. So this is why I said like it's better to do formatting at the end. I'm just doing it so that it looks nice throughout the whole way. So now we've actually completed the bare bones structure of our habit tracker. So if we come back to our empty template, we do have a few extra things, which is only when I apply a text here, then it'll show. This is very easy to implement. So we're not going to do it for the checkboxes just yet. We're just going to do it for, as you can see here, the task completed and the total. So basically, all that we're going to do is we're going to delete this first and to show you that it actually works. So for this time, let me delete this. The function that we're going to basically be using is if this cell is empty. So if empty cell, then we want the task completed to be empty. Otherwise, it will be not. It'll be, I'll say it has the numbers. So let's come back to our task completed up here. I'm just going to do it at the top part. And we're going to cut this out. So if, how do we check if it's empty? So if, select this cell, if that cell is equal to like an empty cell, we're going to make this empty. However, if it's not empty, we're going to do our formula as we would. Now, if we cancel this, you can see that it disappears. Let me bring this back. We can go ahead and copy this formula down, redo the formatting. And as you can see here, now it'll automatically update when there's something here. So I chose that the trigger for this would be the habits. I don't want it to be the checkboxes. I want it to be habits because when I input a habit, that's when I know I want to show the progress for it. I'm just going to delete it so I know that's working. Then if we come to our progress bar and then our progress, we just need to do the exact same if formula basically. So do the exact same technique I showed you. So just cut out your entire current formula. Use the if function. If this cell equals nothing, then I want this to be nothing. Otherwise, put back my formula, please. And then always remember, always remember, copy the formula all the way down. So last but not least, let's do it for this. Cut out your current formula and put in your if this cell equals nothing. Put in nothing. Otherwise, put back my formula, please. Copy down the formula. And now you can see it's working. Very, very cool. I'm going to unselect this so that we can see what it looks like. Now if we play around, we can see that it's working perfectly like we want it. Let me put back bottom border. And then now we don't need this part anymore. So now we've inputted our step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And we have it working dynamically. So if you want to take a peek of how it looks like, you can simply turn off your grid lines. And now it's starting to take mold into this actual template over here. So to apply simple conditional formatting right now, so if you don't want to add all the other conditional formatting which shows you today's date and everything like that, the one that I would generally always have is you select everything, come up to format, go to conditional formatting, and this is the one I want. So if the cell is exactly true, then it will be selected, and go ahead and press done. So that is the rule that I'll will always have because it just looks nice and is satisfying. I'm just going to have it selected so I know it works. And now if we come back to our empty template, now is where we're going to start adding the actual dashboard. So this is a dashboard because it has multiple charts that you can instantly make insights from. This is just our table. This is our dashboard. So let's start with the simple ones, which is adding what month and year it is and today's date. So come back to your tutorial sheet, and for me, I did it from cell E6 all the way to AE6. Merge this into one. And for this one, very simple. I'm going to take the month here, combine it with a space, and then the year. And I'm going to make this size 32, center line, put it in the middle, bold it. And I want it to be uppercase at all times. So I'm going to put an upper function in the beginning. So now that automatically updates. And I'm going to give it a border, classic border. Then over here from AI to AL, I am going to put an outline over here. First cell up here, merge it all together. I'm going to put today's date. And I'm going to center line. And I'm going to bold it. And in this place over here, let me just separate it by putting a border, selecting all the cells, and then merging it. I'm going to use the today function. So the today function will return today's date and will update automatically every day. And then I'm going to center align it, vertically align it, bold, and give it a nice format. So I'm going to go to custom date and time, and I want it to look like this, but I want the month to be full. So August 5th, 1930, exactly what I want. And I'm going to put this as size 16, and I'm going to make this green as well. Perfect. So I just noticed these are 111. That's because the amount of selected cells are more than how many days there are in the month. So I'm going to unselect that. It'll go back to 100. But yeah, we won't have this issue when you're properly using the dashboard. And then while I'm at it, these cells were all cell is 12. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And yeah, that looks a lot better now. This one is size 15. This is size 22. Put it as 22. Same for this one as well. This one is size 22. Okay, so now let's put in our charts. So if we take a look at our empty template, we have these two over here first. So total habits completed and the total habits uncompleted. So before we carry on, I'm actually hiding a secret from you guys. So I'm going to duplicate this so I can show you what I'm talking about. So I duplicated this. Now, if I just make this a little bit smaller by going to 75%, and if I select the whole entire sheet and make it black, you can see that there's actually things hiding because they're the same color as the background. And if I move the charts out of the way, there are actually values behind that I'm using. So for the total habits completed, if I double click on it, I can see that I'm using the data range AP7 to AP9. AP7 is right here. So it's taking the 93. For some reason, I had to select multiple cells. That's why it's AP7 to AP9. But it's taking this 93 and pulling that data from there. And then the total habits uncompleted is just basically taking this cell over here. So we're going to make it look a little bit prettier than what I have going on here. But just want to show you that that's where I'm pulling my data from for the sheets. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete the one that I just made. Click 100% and go to tutorial. Now we can just work with this cell right here for now. So the first thing that we need is I'm gonna call it total habits completed. So what is total habits completed? It's basically the amount of check boxes that we have. So how many of them are true? So I'm actually gonna put this over here. So how many of them are true? So we're gonna do count if, select our range. It's a bit taking up too much space. Select our entire range of our checkboxes, and then I'm gonna make this an absolute reference as well because I don't want that to change at all. And then how many of them are true? Press enter. Now we have 224. And the second scorecard that we're going to use is total habits uncompleted. So I'm going to copy that down and then just replace this with total habits. What am I doing? Total habits uncompleted. So for the total habits uncompleted, this is a little bit different because depending on the amount of habits that you're currently working on, let's say if I'm just working on one, I only have, let me just change this back to March. I only have 31 tasks that I need to complete. If I have 2 habits, I have 31 times 2. So to do the total habits uncompleted, I would need to take how many habits I have, multiply it by the amount of days. So to do that, we can simply do count A. So basically count A counts non-empty cells. I'm going to select the habit cells, and then I'm going to make that an absolute reference because I don't want that to change at all. So count that, and I want to multiply it. So we can simply type in count A, and now we're going to count how many numbers are here. Because remember, when there's only 29 days, the 30 and 31 won't show up. And I'm going to make this an absolute reference. Put in your $signs and press enter. So now we have the total habits uncompleted. So let's say if I only have 2 habits, it's going to go 62 because this is the total habits. So now we just need to subtract the ones we've completed and press enter. So now we have 6 uncompleted, and then when we go ahead and update the check boxes, this will automatically update. So perfect. Now we have the total habits completed and total habits uncompleted. I'm going to make this sheet a little bit smaller so I can see what I'm working on and putting over the data over here, should I say. I'm going to cut this out, paste it over here. And now I'm going to bring back the grid lines a little bit so I can see what I'm working with. So I'm actually going to reposition this a little bit. Actually, let me zoom in because it might be small for you guys. I'm going to reposition this a little bit, putting the C2 over here and then the 0 over here. So let me just check. Yep, this cell is still dependent on the 62. And I'm going to highlight total habits completed 62 and click on the insert chart button. Now, once you insert the chart, it will automatically choose the best chart that it thinks you need. But what we need is a scorecard, which is all the way down here. Scorecard card. And as you can see here, it only gave us the number 62. So we'll have to do some formatting for it. But that's no problem. So actually row 5 should be clicked. So total habits completed. So now it has it here, but it still doesn't show up here. So we're going to go to customize. And actually, we're going to go to chart style. First things first, notice how it has a border. I want to get rid of the border. So double click again. Chart style. set the background color to, I'm going to leave it as none. And I want the border color to be none as well. I want the font to be Roboto. Then for the key value, I'm going to leave it as it is. For the baseline value, also leave everything as it is. And just come to the chart, and I'm going to give it the chart title of Total Habits Completed. And I'm going to bold it, and I'm going to give it the green color. Now come to your chart subtitle, and that's actually going to be empty. I'm going to select the key value again and put the sizing a lot smaller. In fact, actually, I don't need to make it smaller. I can leave it as auto. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back out, and I'm just going to bring it over here. I'm going to put it here and then just get smaller, and then the sizing will automatically update. So I have it coming down to around near the 12 part. Put it over to the side a little bit. And then now we have our total habits completed. Then for our next scorecard, what we can actually do is we can just Control C, Control V. It creates our next scorecard, so we don't have to fix everything again. And I'm going to align it over here. And then now for this, we simply just need to change the data range. So go ahead and remove this data range and add another range by selecting your total habits uncompleted. Press OK. Come back to our scorecard. Now it's 0, and we just need to change the name here. So what actually you can do, double click on the name over here, and then it will automatically show your title text customization and change this to total habits uncompleted. And we're going to make this red. So now you can go ahead and close this. And as you can see, when I select and unselect, things will be updated auto magically, just like that. And then notice after you remove the grid lines, it'll look really, really nice. Now see how everything's clean just because you removed the borders and remove the background color. And then when you add in new habits, that's when your total habits uncompleted will be filled up. So let me remove all of that. So next, if we come back to our empty template, we are left with 3 charts to make. So we're going to do the monthly progress because that's a little easier to do first. So notice how the monthly progress is actually a pie chart by itself along with text in the background. So you're basically just putting the chart over the text is what I'm doing here. So let's go ahead and do this pie chart. So for this one, just to make this look a little bit better, I'm going to do it like this so you can see what number belongs to what. And I'm going to select this just like this. And this one's going to be for the pie chart completed and the pie chart total. So we know that the completed is basically just the completed. So actually we can just reuse this value over here. And then the total will actually be, remember what we did? We took the habits multiplied by the amount of days. So we can get reference from here and just select that formula and copy it over. Remember to put the equals at the beginning, just like that. So we know that we have 62. So even when you check it off, this one goes down, but this one stays up because I didn't subtract the completed. And then now for the pie chart, we need to add the text in the back. Okay, so for my template, I used AJAK 12 to 14. So 12 to 14. AJAK 12 to 14. I'm going to merge these cells. And this will basically take in my completed, and then I'm going to combine it using the ampersand symbol and have a spacing with my slash, and then lastly combine the total. And I'm just going to make these absolute references just in case I move this formula around. I don't want anything messing up, and press enter. So that's exactly what we want. Now we're just going to bold it, center align it, vertically align it, and give it a size of 16, just like that. Then of course, last but not least, we actually need to add the chart. So select these 2 numbers over here, go to insert chart up here, and we want to go to our chart type to be a pie chart. So the red right now represents the total, and the completed represents, or the blue represents the completed. So let's go ahead and customize it. So go ahead and double click, if you're not already in the pie slice, double click on the blue or whatever color you might have, turn that to green, and this one will stay as red, so that's perfect. And then for chart style, we're going to leave that as it is. Come down to pie chart, we're going to put the donut hole as 75% so that we can later on put this over. Border color, none. Slice label, none, and leave everything as it is. Next, come to your chart and axis title, and we're going to call it monthly progress. And we're going to give it actually a wide font and make the sizing 20. We're going to then put this in the middle and turn it to green. Lastly, come to legend, and we don't want any legend, so turn that off. Now we just need to get rid of the color actually in the background. So actually we do need to change the chart style and turn it to none, change the border type, turn it to none, and then we can go ahead and position it over our 2/26. So now if we come back, when we update everything, the pie chart will automatically update just like that. And as you can see, something went wrong. So it's always very important to test out your charts to make sure that what you're doing is correct. So immediately I can see why this is wrong. It's because the total is 62, which is the red part, and then the completed is the green part. So because the total never goes down, this red part will always be there. So actually, because we're using this for the 62 out of 62 here, we're not going to change this. Instead, what we're going to do is we do need the total habits uncompleted, but we're going to put it over here. So PC for the pie chart is uncompleted, and then we're going to put in this cell equals to the total habits uncompleted, and then press enter. And because we're going to use this in the pie chart, I actually want them to be together. So I'm going to just move this down and then move this up like that. So now this one, we'll give it a border. And as you can see, now it'll update properly. So completed, uncompleted, total. And then lastly, we just need to update this chart to pull in the correct data. So let's remove this data range, and we only want these two numbers, 58 and 4. Press OK, close it. And then now, as we can see, the monthly progress will turn fully green when all your tasks have been completed. And then when you don't have anything completed, it'll be completely red. So next that we're going to add to the chart is the habits completed per day. So if we go and take a look at our empty template, and I'm actually going to duplicate it so I can show you. I'm going to move these charts out of the way, and then I'm going to set all the text to black. We actually have some numbers working here in the background. So for the habits completed per day, we'll click on it. We can see that it's using the data range D16 to AH16. So it's using this set of numbers. And for D22, it's using this set of numbers for the x-axis. So firstly, go ahead and we're going to calculate the percentages of the number of habits completed. So since we only have 2 habits, it should show up 100% whenever I have 2 selected here, and 50% for the second day. So we can actually come over here to C16, and we're going to say, call this percentage per day. So for this, we need to calculate how many habits do we have. So we've done that before. So that's using count A, all the habits, select all the cells of the habits, and we're going to make this an absolute reference because we're going to copy down this formula later. And we want to divide this, so this is actually how many habits we have divided by, so we actually want this on the right side because we want it to be divided by 2. For the front part, we want how many habits are completed. So in the first day, how many habits are completed? So this is very simple. It's count if, and then how many of the cells here are true. So this data range and then the criterion will be true, and then press enter. So cool trick actually is to check that your formulas are working correctly. You can highlight just a portion of your formula and it'll show you what the answer is. So this one's saying that it's 2, which is correct, and count A is saying 2, which is also correct. So we can go ahead and press enter, and as you can see, this will update properly. And then what we can do is, and then I'm going to copy that all the way down to the last 31st day. And what I want to do is I want to make this a percentage, and I don't want the decimal place, so we can go ahead and remove the decimal place. I'm also going to make it a size 8 so you can see the percentage completely. And then now to add in our chart, what we're going to do is we're going to click on insert chart, and we're going to come to the setup, and we're going to set it to be an area chart, which is right over here. So actually what we can do is if we resize this, the chart will actually start working. But we need to make sure that we have everything in the proper place. So firstly, we have the data range C16 to AH16. So we actually need it from a different area. So actually, let's just go ahead and cancel this first and then select the percentages. So D16 all the way to AH16. And then we're going to add in the numbers down here as well. And this will be for our x-axis below. Okay, go ahead and press OK. And then what we want to do is we want to not use column D as the headers. And instead, we will come to the x-axis and put in D22 to AH22. And as you can see here, now we have the numbers below. And then just make sure you have these things selected over here. Next, we can start looking on the formatting of the table because now the chart actually does work. So go ahead and double click on the table and come to customize. And we're going to first start with the chart style. So the chart style, the background color, we're going to put it to none for now. The border, we're going to put none as well. Then next, go to your chart access titles. For the chart title, we're going to call it Habits Completed Per Day, just like this. And we're going to give it a wide title font along with a font size of 20. And we're going to bold it and have it center aligned. And then lastly, have it a green color. Next, come down to your series. We're going to have the line color be green as well. We're going to set the point size to 7px. So now we have these little dots here. Then from there, we're going to move on to our legend. So our legend, keep everything as it is. Then we're going to move to our horizontal axis. So for this one, we're going to set the label as wide. We're going to bold it. And we're going to set the minimum to be 1 and the maximum to be 32. This essentially sets our width. So it always show up 1 to 32. And then if we scroll down, do not change anything else. Now we're going to come to our vertical axis, make that wide as well, and font size of 20. We're going to put the text color as black, bold it, and we're going to set the minimum to be 0 and the max to be 1.05. So this will allow for some space at the top. So whenever you make 100%, as you can see here, you can see the dots completely. And then scroll down, leave the rest as it is. Lastly, come down to your grid lines and ticks. And for the vertical axis, we're going to set the count to be 2 over here for the minor count. And we're actually going to turn off minor grid lines. So actually, I guess you didn't have to do that part. And then now we can go ahead and close this. So now we have our first chart. And actually, the percentage here per day, that can be removed as well. So our chart looks a little bit cleaner. Let me jump back to the other chart. So actually, we don't have our vertical grid lines. So what you can do is click on the grid lines here, and it will go to your horizontal axis. And then you can actually untick your horizontal grid lines. And then now that looks perfect. So when you update everything, let's add in some more habits here. And it will appropriately update based on how much you have. So I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. And as you can see, since there's no background on this right now, you're going to see the numbers in the back, which is fine for our case right now, because eventually what we're going to do is we're going to set the font of the text over here to be the same color as the background, so it'll automatically blend in. So now we can see if this works all the way up to the end, and perfectly it works. So we're just going to move this over here a little bit, and there we go. So next we're going to work on the habits completed in month. We can come to our tutorial, and we're going to actually move this out of the way first, and we're going to select this area because we have our text here. So just go ahead and make it black again. Okay, just before we get into making the chart, I need to show you how it functions. So to get the data points on the chart, basically I only want it to update up to the current date of my current month. So right now it's March 16th. So it only shows up to 16. And let's say I have it such that someone has gone ahead and done their task like this, like past 16th, it will also show up. So there's always like response to the design. So in this case, since the data is pulled from these two rows over here, I need to show it up to the current date. So basically I need to find out what date it is and show the number up to the current date. And if anyone goes beyond that, it'll then show up 17, 18, 19. And when it's a month that has already passed, it will already show up everything, like all the way from 1 to the last day. And if it's after the current date, so right now it's not April, April's next month for me, it won't show up anything. So it might be a bit confusing, but no worries. I'll try to still break it down for you very simply. So we're going to come back to our tutorial, and over the C11, I'm going to bring back the grid lines actually. Put put on show grid lines. And at C11, I'm going to call this current day for chart. So this will show up 1 starting here. And basically we need to know a few things. So we're going to start with this if function. Just follow along first. So if today, so right now is March 16th, I want to extract just the number. So if the day of today is greater or equal to the first number here, so we click on this, then I want to show that number. So I want to show D22. And if not, I want to show a blank. And then we can close this, drag this down all the way to the last one. Okay, so this is perfect. Okay, then next I want to get the number of tasks that are completed. So I'm going to call this number of tasks completed. Completed per day. That's what it stands for. So the first one will basically be a count if, then select first column. And if that is true, just like that. And then the second column will also be the same formula. So it'll be count if the second column and whichever is true. But we want to add in the previous day's number of tasks. So if you don't understand, just follow along. So we're going to add in the previous cell and press enter. Now what we can do is we can actually copy this formula all the way to the end. And then now it'll have like a running total. So if we come over here, we have 68 tasks completed. If we complete another one here, it'll become 69, 70, 71, 72, and it'll update it to the rest of the days. Okay, so I just went ahead and tested if these are the only 2 rows I need, because actually if we look at what I did in my chart, I have 3 different rows of data. So we're just going to try this first, and it should work exactly the same. So firstly, I'm going to go ahead and delete this chart, because what I want to do to start a new chart is I want the same formatting as this table over here. So I'm simply going to press Control C and Control V to copy that table. So I have it over here, and I know this is a little bit messy, but please bear with me a little bit. I'm going to double click on this chart, and first things first, it's to set the data range. So delete this data range, and I'm going to first include this row all the way to the end, 31st, and then I'm going to add another range, which is this row over here. And I'm going to press OK. And I'm going to give this chart a background just so that we can see what we're working with. The chart style, set the background color as white. Now we can see what we're working with. Come back to the setup. So for the x-axis, we want that to be D11. And for the series, we want that to be D13. And for this, we want it to be a stacked area chart. So come over here and look for stacked area chart. Now, the reason why it's looking like this is actually because I have limits on it because we copied it from over here. So to fix that, simply come to your vertical axis, and we just want to turn this off for now. We want to leave it as 20, bold it, and then leave the rest as it is. Come over to your grid lines, and for the horizontal axis, we don't want anything ticked. So for the vertical axis, we want to get rid of the grid lines as well. We can come up to our legend as well and set that to wide, and come to your horizontal axis as well and set the minimum to 0 and keep it at 32, and the rest leave it as their default. Now come up to your series, and for this one we're going to make a few changes. So firstly, we're going to turn on the error bars, and for the error bars we're going to set to 25%. And then the reason why we have error bars is so that when we turn on the data labels, we can see them very clearly, just like that. And for this, you can set it, I set it to italics, so it looks a little bit better. And then we can come to our chart and axis title, and we can rename it. So this one is called Habits Completed in Month. And for the chart style, go ahead and click on Compare Mode. So now this chart will automatically update, but only up to the 16th. So I don't want that to happen. I want it to continually show when I update over here as well, just so that it gives the user, the person using the spreadsheet, feedback. So basically, when something is ticked, I want the next day to show up. And even if I click over here, I want it to show up. So very simple fix. All you got to do is we can come to this formula and cut this out using Control X and basically do the if function. If, let me cancel this. If this cell is not 0, so use the left and right arrows is not 0. So that's the not symbol. Then we want it to be 17. So click on 17. And then if it's greater than 0, then we'll just do the formula and then press enter. So now we can go ahead and copy this formula all the way to the right, and also make sure to copy it all the way to the left as well. So right now the chart is actually having a gap. That's because it's not plotting the null values. So actually there is a way that we can simply just click on this and then it'll fix the chart. But actually what the better way is, we actually need to start out our chart with a 0. So I'm going to move these over here for now. And we need to put in 0 just so that the chart starts from completely 0 when everything is not checked, just like this. We want to start at 0 properly. So simply double click on your chart and update the ranges that they would start from C, and then click away, and then now you have your point 0. Okay, it's still not showing. So if it's still not showing, very simple, just plot null values. And then now we can check if our chart is working properly. Let me just be here. And if we unselect the 22, it won't show. Great. If we unselect the 14th, it'll show up to the 16th. And if we complete everything, perfect. It shows up to 124. So I'm going to set these as right aligned just so that they won't show up behind so much. And now there's one more thing for this chart. So if you notice, one more thing is that if we change the month to February, for example, and nothing is selected, it still only goes up to the 16th. However, the month has already passed, so we need it to show up all the way. Similarly, when we go to a month after, it still shows up to the 16th. However, these should not show up at all unless it is clicked upon. So we need a way to know if the month that we set the worksheet or the spreadsheet to is after or before the current month that we're in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 2 flags. So I'm going to call the first one is before first, question mark. Then the next one I'm going to call is after last day, question mark. So to know if it's before the first, what we're going to do is we're going to check if today is before the first of this month. So the first of this month would be a certain date. So we need to formulate that date together. So if we look at this function, we need the year. Go ahead and select the year, and we're going to make that an absolute reference. Then we need the month. So remember, we had to use the month function along with the date value of the date string 1 space, and then combining it with the actual month. And then we're going to make that an absolute reference as well. Then we can close this. And then next we need the day, which is, we can just put it as 1, and then we can close this off. So it's today's date before the 1st of April. Yes, March 16 is before the 1st of April. Perfect. Next, we're going to do this function over here, which is after last day. So what we can do is we can check if today is after the last day. So how do we know the last day? We can actually come to this cell over here, and we know that this date over here will return us the last day. So just copy this part, as you can see, April 30th, so returns us the last day. Just copy that part, press escape, quickly type in today is after the last day, press enter. So is March 16th after April 31st? It's not, so it's false. If we go to March, we can see that, are we before the 1st? No, we're in the middle. Are we after the 31st? No, we're in the middle. Correct. And last but not least, check before. So is 16 before February 1st? It's not, so false. Is March 16th after February 31st? Yes, it is. True. So now that we have these flags in place, we can update these cells over here accordingly. So just follow along, double click your cell. So if this cell is not 16, we still want to show number 1 in this case. So the only part we need to change is actually this part. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut that out first, and we're going to check if we are before the 1st, and I'm going to make that an absolute reference. We don't want to show anything. And if we are after the last day, make that an absolute reference. We are going to show the number 1. However, if we're in the middle and we're not before or after the last day, we're going to do our normal formula. So go ahead and press enter. Now we can copy this formula all the way down. And as you can see, now that it's February 2025, this month has already passed. It shows up all the numbers and it shows no tasks were completed basically, which is correct. And then if we go to April, it doesn't show anything, but if we do update the habits, the chart will update accordingly. So that's exactly what we want. And then last but not least, if we go to our current month, it'll show up to the 16th, which is exactly what we want. And actually I can move this over here since it's safe. I can move this over here since it's safe. So these two flags are for this part. We have the current day for the chart and the number of tasks completed per day. So now that we've completed this chart, what we can actually do is take these cells and give it a white color so that we can't see. And another thing to do is while it's highlighted, I'm actually going to change it back to black first. What we can do is we can protect this range. So right click and look for view more cell actions and click on protect range. So what this does is this is our data for charts. So go ahead and type in data for charts. That can be any name you want, doesn't matter what it is. And we're going to set the permissions. So we're going to set it to show a warning when editing this range and click on done. So this just means if let's say accidentally we type in something and press enter, this will show up, which means like we're editing the protected range, which we don't want. So we don't want to edit, so press cancel. So this is very useful because let's say if you want to edit something outside the range, that's perfectly fine. But if everything is the same color as the background where you can't see it, so in this case it's okay because we're just changing the color. Right now we can't see. If we make any changes over here, right now I'm typing, you can't see. Okay, I'm typing as you can see, and if I press enter, we might change it without us even knowing. So that's why it's very important to protect the range. And then now we can go ahead knowing safely that it's okay, and we can put in our charts now. So let me just turn off the grid lines and chart over here and leave chart over here. And just to see if this works, I'm going to select everything perfect, just how I like it. And if we don't have things selected, okay, perfect. So likewise, while we're still here, we can actually also protect this range as well. A few more cell actions, protect range. And we are going to do data for scorecard and Piechart. Set permissions and set it to show warning when editing this range. Click on done, close out, and we can remove the borders. That's safe, and make the background white as well. Click OK. Now, if we hop back to our empty template, the last thing we need to do is the conditional formatting. So what is conditional formatting? Basically, it's saying if a value is a certain value, it'll highlight it, it'll change the color. If I tick the box, it will change to green. If there's something in this cell, then it will change the color for this, etc., etc. So come back to your tutorial, and I'm going to unselect everything. First thing that I want to do is highlight the date. So firstly, highlight the day name and the day number. Then go to format and click on conditional formatting. Now select the format rules and select some formula is, and then type in the formula equals date, and we're going to make a date. So we first need the year. So to get the year, that is in B5. So type in B5, and we want this to be an absolute reference. So add $signs in the start, and then we want the month. So the month, we have to do month, and then we need to create a date value. So type in 1 space close quotes and combine that with the actual month. So this is B6. So type in B6 and add the $signs as usual. And then we need to close the date value function and then the month function. And then we need to put in our day. We're going to put in $22. So because when you're using conditional formatting, it's going to check the first cell, and then so it'll take 1 in this case, which is D22, and then it'll go to the second one and it'll take number 2, it'll go to the third column, and then it'll take number 3. So that's why we have it in this way. And then we're going to close off this function, and then we're going to check if it equals to today's date. So use the today function, and then now as you can see, it's highlighting Sunday 16th, which is today's date for me. So you can format this however you like. What I want to do is I don't want to change the color, but I do want to make it italics, underline it, and then change the font to white, so it stands out among the rest. And then you can go ahead and click on done. Right now it's showing the conditional format rules for the true. So to get the other conditional formatting, you just click on any cell where you apply the conditional formatting, and then now this will automatically update when it's a new day. So now I want to highlight these cells gray, showing that if it's today. So actually what we're going to do is we're going to come back to our conditional formatting for that rule, and we're going to copy it completely. Control C, cancel out. Now we're going to select all our checkboxes over here and go to format, conditional formatting, and we're going to add another rule. So for this rule, go to custom formula is and paste in the exact rule. And as you can see here, it automatically shows up that row. And for this one, I'm going to make it a gray color. So I'm going to use the 5th one from the right, just like that. Now press done. So this will automatically update each day as well. And whenever you click it, it will turn green because we have the text is exactly true above this one. So that means this one takes priority. So the next thing that we're going to add is if there's no habit typed out here, we want to turn these to gray. So if we come to our empty template, we want it to look like this essentially. So come up to your table and highlight the checkboxes plus the tasks completed and all the way to the very end. And then we're going to go to format, conditional formatting, and we're going to add another rule, and we're going to go to custom formula is, and basically we're just going to check if the first cell has a habit. So B23, and we're going to have to put a $sign from the B, and then we're going to check equals an empty cell. So use the quotation marks, and as you can see, it's highlighting this row, which is exactly what we want highlighted. And what we want to do is we want to make the font color and the background color the same color essentially. So for that, I'm going to change it to the 3rd from the left, and then I'm going to change the background color to the 3rd from the left, and then it hides it. And then what we can do is press done. Now notice how we have this gray still showing. That just means that we need to put the darker gray priority over the today's date. And then now we close this. When we enter a new habit, it will automatically show, which is exactly what we want. Now the very last formatting rule that we want to add is when, let's say it's February, these days don't exist, so we want to hide it. So come back to our tutorial, and we're going to select just these 3 columns of data, and we're going to go to format, conditional formatting, and we want to add another rule that says, go to our format rules, custom formula is, and we're going to check for our first set of cells if AF is blank, because these don't show if it's February. Let me just show you that actually. Change it to February, come back, there's nothing here. So if AF, if cell 22, so 22 is blank, and make sure to put a $sign in front of the 22. So now as you can see, it's highlighting the green, which is exactly what we want. So make the font color the 3rd from the left, and make the background color the 3rd from the left, and then click on done. And then if you want to double check your conditional formatting rules that they're in this correct priority order, simply highlight the entire table, click on format, and go to conditional formatting. And if we go to the 1, 2, 3 one, we want to put it at the very bottom, and AF will be above. Just have it in this order. This is how my template is. I have the green one at the top, the white one second, AF 3rd, B23 4th, and this 1, 2, 3 gray one at the last one. So go ahead and close it. And then now we are actually done with the template. So whenever you're done with the template, the last thing you do is now this is where you can finalize your formatting. So for this one, I want it to be size 515, vertically align it. I want to make this smaller actually, this bigger. And just to test it, whenever I add a new habit, it will automatically update. If I change it to March, it'll update. If I change it to April, update. If I check off the checkboxes, it will update accordingly. And let me just make this smaller because it's getting out. And I want to have this in the middle as well. And for the blue steps, you can always hide it by clicking on 19 and clicking hide row. Same for step 1. You can hide this row, and then you can make these cells a lot bigger. That's too big. and perfect. Now everything can be seen in this dashboard. Then whenever you update this one will also work. Let me just check if the green checkboxes are working, or should I say green progress bars. And that's perfect as well. These cells, I realize they need to be vertically aligned as well. And that should be it. So let me just get rid of this. So we are working with something. And if these are checked, no worries. You can just uncheck them. They're not a big problem. And then your charts will update accordingly. Okay, so that is how you make the Smart Habit Tracker template. I know that took quite a long time. I didn't realize it would actually take this long. I'm not going to lie. But I hope you learned something from it. Comment down below what you'd like to see next, what template you'd like me to go through next step by step. Any questions, please leave them in the comment below, and I'll try to help out based on what you guys need help with. And with that, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.